Let me challenge you for a moment. There is a certain factor, something that has the ability to get us to dig deep, unlock, and tap into the vault of potential we have. It's a factor that moves us in directions we otherwise may not go, causes us to raise our game and perform at higher levels. And when needed, it's the factor that challenges us to commit, lean in, be resilient, adaptable, innovative, and when facing obstacles and fatigue, to find the reserves that power us through. So what is this factor? This enigma that can shift us from being subscribers to the average, comfortable, or mediocre, and in its place, unleash the champion spirit within us. This factor is something found in those who inspire us, point us towards something bigger than our individual selves, those who can gather us together, align us, focus us, and move us towards an endgame objective. An endgame that requires harnessing the collective potential, energy, efforts, and talents of the human dynamic. Some know it as inspiration or motivation. Others call it influence, charisma, or power, but most will label it leadership. But I hear you asking, surely we can accomplish what you have mentioned by ourselves. Why do we need a leader, and what do they really bring to the game? And here is the thing. There is a crucial component to the success equation of any endeavor, mission, outcome, or whatever you want to name the end game. But this part of the equation is the most complex and volatile because it's the domain of human dynamics, people. Every end game will attract or force individuals into an arena as a group, community, or team that, when left to these individual components and their own devices, is prone to disorder. Left in this state and without a galvanizing force in play, it results in a group becoming divided, splintered, disintegrating, or despite everyone's best efforts, self-destructing. Good leaders are those who are able to tap into this human realm of complexity and volatility by applying the fundamentals that are the psychodynamics of leadership. And through the application of these skills and abilities, they become the unifier, the focusing and galvanizing force in the mix. And this is what good leaders bring to the game. Now, don't tune out. This is not the same old on leadership with a different spin on it and dressed in a different book jacket. So if it isn't this, then what is it? You need to be asking 3 questions. What is leadership psychodynamics? What differentiates it from what the mainstream is? And why is it different? It's one word: expectations. Everything we perceive, think, feel, and do is underpinned by the expectations we have and the expectations of others around us. But in a strange quirk, our expectations and of those around us are formed and shaped by how we perceive things, what our emotions are, and our behaviors. But what exactly are expectations? Stripped down to the core, they are what you want or don't want to happen. In other words, what you gravitate towards or run from. Being expectant is an always-on mechanism. It's part of your survival genetics because it helps determine whether you take advantage of finding your next meal or whether you become lunch. Simply put, expectations are an ever-present internal mechanism asking the self-preservation question, what's in it for me? Regardless of whether it's on the plains of the savannah, in the office, in a relationship, or in your community, this expectant state question is always there because your self-preservation depends on it. So when a group gathers because an endgame is in play, it begins as a collection of varying, different, disparate, and often conflicting expectations. A collective human dynamic that is filled with individual self-preservation in play. That is, until a force acts upon this dynamic to shift it from an individual level and galvanize it on something bigger. Something to cause a shift in expectations. Expectations put in play the most powerful psychological forces associated with gain or loss, pleasure or pain, your survival. Interconnected with expectations and with each other are the four superdomains in our lives: perceptions, or how we see things, our emotions, the purpose, meaning or value we attach to anything, and how we behave, how we act, react, or do nothing. But why is this expectation factor of any significance? What does it have to do with the ability to tap into the human dynamics realm, influence it, and lead it towards a specific endgame? Let me explain. We are influenced, shaped, and driven by the expectations we embrace, and by those thrust upon us by everything around us. Expectations cause us to either gravitate towards something, to engage or disengage, or avoid it. Therefore, when we talk about tapping into the human dynamics and performance, of gathering people together, aligning them, focusing them, and moving them to an endgame destination and outcome, we are in fact tapping into the core power of human expectations. You are engaging the power realms of perceptions, emotions, purpose, and behaviors. Leadership psychodynamics is understanding what expectations actually are, what the interconnected power of these domains are, how they form our expectations, and conversely, how our expectations form our worldview, how we feel, perceive meaning or value, and how we behave. The psychodynamics of leadership contains the fundamentals, the basic or core building blocks for effective leadership that are the keys to unlocking the latent potential and performance within the leader and of the entire human dynamic they lead. The realm of expectations, how they are formed, shifted, and the power they hold within the human dynamic is a window to why the human dynamic is so complex and volatile, and why so many struggle to get a handle on it, and even more are unable to tap into unlocking this peak human performance and battle to achieve optimum endgame success. This expectation domain is at the center of what puts in play more than 3,000 touchpoints a leader must deal with continually. These touchpoints are potential powerhouses or flashpoints that either add value to the mix or can bring the house of cards tumbling down. This sheer volume of touchpoints is humanly impossible to manage unless you reduce them to a set of core levers. Levers that, like pressing the icon on your smartphone, sets in motion strings of complex code in the background to produce a result for you. And in a similar fashion, a leader needs a handful of levers that control the complex touchpoints in the background and produce results for them and the team. Every good leader, every natural leader is consciously or subconsciously subscribing to this leverage approach. The leadership psychodynamics model distills the vast complexity of the human dynamic into a blueprint and playbook that reduces the complexity and 3,000 plus touchpoints to just 5 manageable focus areas. 5 focal areas that, when aligned and balanced, automatically take care of the complexity and volatility a leader must deal with. Isn't it time for change, for an evolution in how you go about your craft of tapping into the human dynamics realm? And isn't it time that subscribing to the same old and expecting better results comes to an end? And isn't it time to cut through the clutter and noise and subscribe to a model that reduces the complexity to a handful of manageable levers?